Right now on the news at noon, a Gresham family detained while taking their child to the doctor, now in a Texas detention facility, even though they thought they entered the country legally. And later, officials released the new timeline in the disappearance of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother. But first, the 2026 Olympic Winter Games officially kicks off in Milan, with several Oregon athletes stepping up to compete. Your news at noon starts now. The start of the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. Thanks so much for joining us here at noon. I'm Stephanie Domerat. Roughly an hour ago, opening ceremonies kicked off with intricate performances at the main hub in Milan. Weeks of practice all culminated in a memorable show that featured more than 1,000 volunteers and showcased key aspects of Italian culture, from fine arts to fashion. And it didn't lack star power either, with performances from pop icon Mariah Carey and Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli. And then came the Parade of Nations, which is still happening. When the time comes, flag bearers Frank Del Duca and Aaron Jackson will lead Team USA into the games, all building up to the historic cauldron lighting, where for the first time ever, 2 Olympic flames will be lit 250 miles apart. And as the Winter Games kick into high gear, some of our local athletes are already entering the competition, and other athletes, at the very least, got a first look at their temporary homes. Sunrise reporter Corey Johnson has a look at some of the Olympic athletes from Oregon who are set to compete.
Well, let's first start off with qualifiers for big air snowboarding. Hood River's Sean Fitzsimons is making his second Olympic appearance. The broadcast crew describing the 25-year-old style as a wrecking ball, of course in the best way. Now, Fitzsimons needed a massive score on his final run, but unfortunately didn't have a clean landing and ended up placing 25th. The top 12 advanced, so not quite enough for Fitzsimons. Now, only one American qualified for the finals. His Olympic dreams are not over just yet. He's set to compete in slopestyle on February 16th. And Portland native Jackie Wiles is also hoping to leave her mark as a 4-time Olympian. She'll race for the gold in downhill skiing. That's set for Sunday. And Alessandro Barbieri from Portland gave us a very special behind-the-scenes tour of where the athletes are staying.
Just made it to the U.S. Olympic room. We got our opening ceremonies, some ACG stuff. We got the bed, not cardboard. I know that Paris had some issues with that.
It's always cool to see a behind-the-scenes view. It makes us feel like we're there with them. Now, Barbieri is set to compete in the snowboarding halfpipe. Qualifiers for that start February 11th. Now, we're also going to be keeping a special eye out for freestyle skier Hunter Hess from Bend later in the games. Back to you.
A very big day for sure. And stay with KGW for all things Olympics. We will have extended coverage of the games and a recap of today's opening ceremonies starting tonight at 8 o'clock right here on KGW. All right, well, it is time to get a check of your weather. Let's check in with Chris. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you. We are staring at another beautiful Friday afternoon, but changes afoot here as we go to the weekend. More on that in a second. For now, west of the Cascades, most of us enjoying brilliant sunshine. East side of the Cascades, once again in that low cloud lockdown. This is what it looks like out in the East Gorge right now, out near the Dalles, where the temperatures are in the mid-40s. And those temperatures will not budge much today as you stay underneath those low clouds. Meanwhile, west end of the gorge to the east side of Portland, another breezy day. Not as windy as yesterday, but still pretty windy. Corbett gusting to 60 earlier today. I-205 near Division gusting to nearly 30. So once you get east of 205, it's another breezy day. And then you get out to the coast and there's not a cloud in the sky. It's 57 degrees at lunchtime in Astoria right now. And over downtown Portland, it's mostly clear and 52 with the light east breeze out at PDX. Okay, the plan for the rest of this afternoon, get out and enjoy if you like the sunshine, and who doesn't during what is typically one of our rainier months of the year. We're going to enjoy that with highs inching their way to the upper 50s. By the way, the record for today is 59. So again, in near record territory again. And then that all ends, and we've got rain. 2 days of rain in our weekend forecast, and lowering Cascade snow levels as well. More on that in just a few minutes, Stephanie.
Okay, we'll see you then, Chris. Thank you. Police arrested 3 people in connection to a shooting that injured 2 people in a northeast Portland motel room last night. Portland police say this happened around 11 p.m. at a motel off Northeast Sandy Boulevard. The 2 injured in the shooting were taken to a hospital and are expected to survive. Portland police says they detained 4 people in connection to the shooting, but ultimately let 1 person go. 2 of the suspects were arrested on warrants. The final suspect faces attempted murder charges. Developing this afternoon, we are learning more about a Gresham family detained by ICE while trying to take their 7-year-old daughter to the doctor. 3 weeks after being detained, they are now being held in a Texas detention center. Sunrise reporter Thomas Schultz has more on their situation.
A friend tells us the family, including a 7-year-old girl, is barely eating. She says they're sad and confused because they thought they had entered the United States legally. Federal agents picked up the Gresham family, Dariana Lices Gonzalez de Crespo, Yohendry de Jesus Crespo, and their 7-year-old daughter on January 16th outside Adventist Health in Southeast Portland. That's where the parents had taken their daughter to see a doctor. She was suffering from a severe nosebleed. The family friend, Ana Lenares Mendoza, says conditions at the Texas detention facility have been difficult. 2 measles cases have been reported there. She says the family's health is poor, especially the little girl who can barely eat or sleep.
Por ejemplo, la niña está un poco débil porque no come. Fue lo que me dijo ella el domingo, la niña no come.
Mendoza says the Crespo Gonzalez family came to the U.S. from Venezuela seeking asylum from political violence. She says they believe they were here legally pending a court date for their asylum claim. Though in a statement, the Department of Homeland Security says, quote, these parents illegally entered the U.S. with their daughter in 2024 through the disastrous CBP One app and were released into the country by the Biden administration. Any application for asylum does not preclude immigration enforcement. Still, Oregon Congresswoman Maxine Dexter says that the family has an active asylum case and an active court date. She says she tried to visit them yesterday at the Texas Detention ICE facility and will try again once again today after not being able to do so yesterday. Thomas Schultz, KGW News.
Meanwhile, Governor Tina Kotek joined more than 30 Oregon mayors to demand an immediate pause on federal immigration enforcement actions in the state until all recent shootings by federal officers are fully investigated. In early January, 2 Venezuelan immigrants were shot and injured by a Border Patrol agent in Southeast Portland. And during that same month in Minneapolis, federal agents shot and killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy. In a letter to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and Border Czar Tom Homan, Oregon leaders said in part, quote, the actions of our officers are not making our communities safer. Whenever law enforcement uses lethal force, there must be a full, fair investigation and accountability at the highest legal standard. The letter follows Governor Kotek's January 30th executive order that creates a new council to track reports of immigration enforcement activities and find ways to improve the state's response and support those impacted. Meanwhile, a federal judge ruled that ICE can't arrest people in Oregon without a warrant unless they're likely to escape. A spokesperson for the Homeland Security Department says the ruling won't work and, quote, DHS conducts enforcement operations in line with the U.S. Constitution. One of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit this ruling is connected to is a proposed class action, calls the decision an important check on the federal government. They say the ruling will put a stop to unfounded arrests like Hillsborough grandfather Victor Cruz, who was held for weeks without a warrant despite his legal status.
This fear, this constant sense of being hunted was real. It was actually really real. And now I think there can be a pause.
Judges have issued similar rulings in Colorado and Washington, D.C., which the government is appealing.